Because of the pandemic, there are a lot of new gun owners in America, and rightfully so. The pandemic has exposed the fragility of the stability of our society. It's forcing a lot of people to accept the fact that at any moment, there can be a breakdown in society, forcing them to be completely dependent on themselves for their safety. So naturally, they go and buy the most effective means to protect themselves: a gun. Now, as a new gun owner, I want you to imagine a few weeks or months or even years from now, you're sitting at home with your family, the very reason why you bought the gun in the first place, and the police knock on your door and tell you that they're there to take your guns because somebody you didn't know about had some secret meeting with the judge and told them that you're a danger to yourself or other people and should have your guns taken away. But you're a little confused because you haven't committed a crime. Now you're asking yourself, how can they do that? I have a Second Amendment, I have a Fourth Amendment, and I have a 14th Amendment right. I haven't broken any laws. How the hell can the cops just show up at my house and take away my rights without even charging me with a crime? I'll tell you how. Red flag laws. Red flag laws, or extreme risk protection orders, as some states call them, are state laws that allow law enforcement, family members, friends, romantic partners, co-workers, or close associates to ask courts to confiscate the guns of someone who a judge believes is a danger to himself or others based on a one-sided story of the people asking the judge. Considering the most recent spate of mass shootings by people who we later learned were dealing with mental health issues, I can see how the masses might be seduced by the idea of red flag laws. However, red flag laws are like a lot of people's Tinder profiles. On paper, red flag laws look great, but in the real world, they're a flaming hot catfish with massive teeth and an appetite for devouring civil liberty. Anti-gun politicians and anti-gun special interest groups like the Brady Campaign, Moms Demand Action, and Everytown, two of which were started and funded by a billionaire anti-gun politician, want you to believe that red flag laws always work like this. However, they don't talk about the reality of red flag laws. Red flag laws are literally laws based on a movie where they had gifted beings with supernatural powers making the decisions about someone's future crimes, and even they couldn't get it right.
Most of the time, all three precognitives will see an event in the same way, but once in a while, one of them will see things differently than the other two.
Are you saying I've haloed innocent people?
I'm saying that every so often, those accused of a pre-crime might have an alternate future.
Red flag laws take inherently flawed human judges and expect them to become these quasi-fortune tellers based on a one-sided story. Our legal system is based on judges making decisions about crimes already committed, not about crimes that they may or may not be committing in the future. The first problem with red flag laws is due process, or the lack thereof. Too many people think the right to own a gun is a privilege. Driving a car is a privilege. Public education is a privilege. Public housing is a privilege. Owning a gun, however, is a right, which means it can only be taken from you if you're charged and convicted of a crime. Red flag laws not only not charge you with a crime, you're presumed guilty of a crime you haven't been charged with. But because someone had a secret meeting with the judge about you, the cops can now come and confiscate your guns immediately. Police randomly showing up at a gun owner's house to confiscate their guns, even though the gun owner hasn't broken a law. I wonder what could go wrong.
An Anne Arundel County man is dead after officers say he refused to give up his gun to police.
Officers shot and killed him at his home this morning, where they were attempting to enforce the new red flag law.
Police now guarding the street where their attempt to enforce the new red flag law turned fatal hours earlier. Around 5:15 in the morning, Anne Arundel County police say they came to a home on Linwood Avenue near Broadview Boulevard to take weapons from 60-year-old Gary Willis. They say two officers knocked on the door and Willis answered, armed with a handgun. Sergeant Jacqueline Davis says at first he put the gun down and stepped outside to talk with police.
He was fine with the officers until they told him, hey, we're serving you with this order, and this order orders us from the court to take your guns.
At that point, she says Willis went for his gun. One of the officers tried to grab it out of his hand, and Willis pulled the trigger. That bullet didn't hit anyone, but it prompted the other officer to open fire, shooting and killing the gun owner.
Let's say no one gets killed in the confiscation process. Now the only way to get your guns back is to have a hearing to prove to the judge that already determined that you were a danger, that you're not a danger. Now ask yourself, do you think this judge that already thinks you're a danger is going to be more or less inclined to change his mind? Or will he, out of abundance of caution, affirm his initial decision. Now you have to hire an attorney, and as a lawyer, let me be the first to tell you, we ain't cheap, and you still might lose. Oh, and you thought the cops were gonna be nice and hold your guns for you for free while all of this is going on? Oh, no, 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 no. You either have to pay the local government to hold your guns, give them to a friend, or pay a local gun dealer. God forbid you have more than a few guns, you'll be paying some people's mortgage just to store your guns. At this point, you not only unconstitutionally had your guns confiscated, they're making you pay for it. And another thing, if you live with someone that also has a gun, they might take their gun too. I mean, if the whole point of this law is to prevent this person from gaining access to a firearm, it only makes sense to take all the guns in the house, right? Now you have two people with their rights violated because of a secret meeting with a judge by a person who risks little to nothing as far as consequence if they're lying. But who are we kidding? No one ever lies about someone being abusive and a danger purely out of spite.
Johnny's lawyers say Johnny's career has suffered because of the abuse allegations she made against him. This frivolous action is just the latest of Johnny Depp's repeated efforts to silence Amber Heard. She will not be silenced. Mr. Depp's actions prove he is unable to accept the truth of his ongoing abusive behavior.
And I watched you lie, and then
I didn't punch you. By the way, I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you, babe. You're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
You know, even a lot of fights been around a long time. I know. Yeah,
no, when you can have a closed fist.
You get punched. You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this, but I did not punch you. I did not fucking deck you. I fucking was hitting you.
Sure, a lot of red flag laws make the person making a request to fill out an affidavit swearing that they're telling the truth, and if not, they can be charged with perjury. Much the same way it's illegal to lie on a 4473 form you fill out when you're buying a gun, and you know, they always prosecute those crimes. Oh, wait.
The law states that anyone who purchases a firearm from a licensed gun store needs to pass a federal background check. But this report released by the Government Accountability Office says people who lie on their background check forms almost never get prosecuted for it.
We live during a time where people call you evil simply for having a different political opinion. Hell, many anti-gunners think simply owning an AR-15 makes you a potential mass murderer, and a lot of these people are the same judges who would be deciding these red flag law cases. The potential for abuse of red flag laws is simply staggering, and considering the lengths I've seen anti-gunners go to silence and disarm gun owners, giving them red flag laws is like giving a child dynamite. It's only a matter of time before something goes wrong. Another thing about red flag laws is they're not that effective at stopping anything. Many anti-gun politicians and anti-gun special interest groups like to use mass shootings to justify red flag laws, saying that red flag laws could have prevented these shootings. Take the El Paso shooting. They love to bring this one up because Texas doesn't have a red flag law, and weeks before the shooting, the mother called the police concerned about her son having an AK-47. However, what they don't tell you is that she was concerned because she felt that he was too young to own an AK, even though he was of legal age to own an AK under law. Even if Texas had a red flag law, it wouldn't apply here because she didn't call because she felt he was a danger to himself and others. She simply didn't like him having a gun, period. Thus, providing another example of how people will just simply abuse red flag laws to appease their own negative opinions about firearm ownership. If someone is talking about killing a bunch of people, guess what? That's a terroristic threat. Arrest their ass and charge them. You don't need red flag laws to do that. Red flag laws are bullshit. If someone is so much of a danger to themselves or others, either have them involuntarily committed or arrest them. Don't try to use red flag laws to create some gray lesser standard as a catch-all law for when you don't think you can meet the standards necessary to involuntarily commit someone or have them arrested. You don't meet the standard because the standard required to deny someone their right is a high standard, and that standard applies to every part of the Constitution, especially the Second Amendment. Oh, and by the way, every one of the founding fathers would have been red flagged. Right now, there's a culture war against the Second Amendment, which is why I need your help spreading our message to counter their message. You can do this by leaving a comment, sharing this video, and click the bell and subscribe button. Let my voice be your voice, and let them know you want to keep America tactical, because the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed wasn't a suggestion. It was a directive. Also, if you're wondering where to get your I will not comply, I lost all of my guns in a boating accident, the AR-15 is protected by the Second Amendment, and your state-specific Keep America tactical shirts, click the links in the description section of this video.